What if I told you that 5 old wheat pennies sitting in an ordinary jar could be worth far more than they look? These pennies may look common, worn, brown, and almost worthless, but some collectors are willing to pay serious money for the right examples. Today, we're looking at 5 wheat pennies that could make you think twice before spending your old change. These are not flashy modern coins. They are the kind of pennies people overlook every single day simply because they look old and ordinary. But here's the shocking part. Some examples can carry values reaching thousands of dollars. And the difference between an ordinary penny and a highly desirable collector coin can come down to details most people never notice. The date, mint mark, condition, original surfaces, and surviving examples. So before you throw those old pennies into a jar or spend them at the store, stop and check them. Because one of these 5 wheat pennies could be hiding in an old collection, a forgotten drawer, or even loose change right now. Stay with me until the end, because we're counting down all 5, and the final penny has a value that could make you look at your old coins completely differently. Welcome back to Hidden Coin Millions. Let's find out which of these ordinary-looking wheat pennies deserves the closest look. And remember, don't spend it. Check it first. Coin number 1. Before you toss that old brown penny into a jar, a cash drawer, or even back into circulation, take a much closer look. Because this particular date has a story that can make ordinary pocket change suddenly feel very different. We're talking about the 1951 wheat penny, a standard-issue Lincoln cent with no mint mark. And that missing letter is not automatically a mistake. On this coin, no mint mark means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1951, America was living through the early years of the Korean War, just a few years after World War II, and the country was moving deeper into the post-war economy. Millions of Americans were working, shopping, traveling, and using small denomination coins every single day. This penny was made for exactly that purpose, everyday commerce. But decades later, collectors look at the same little coin very differently. The 1951 Lincoln cent carries the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner. You'll see Liberty to the left of Lincoln, In God We Trust above him, and the date 1951 on the lower right. On this Philadelphia issue, there is no mint mark beneath the date. Turn it over, and the classic wheat reverse appears. 2 wheat ears frame the center, with 1 cent and United States of America surrounding the denomination, while E pluribus unum sits above. That wheat design identifies this coin as part of the Lincoln wheat cent era, which ran from 1909 through 1958. And here's something important. This is not a silver coin. The 1951 cent was made from a bronze alloy containing 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighs 3.11 grams, measures about 19 millimeters across, has a plain edge, and is approximately 1.5 millimeters thick. The Philadelphia Mint produced 284,576,000 regular 1951 Lincoln cents. That means the date itself is not rare simply because it is old. And that distinction matters. Collectors aren't paying serious money for every 1951 penny they encounter. They are searching for the right combination of date, originality, preservation, color, surfaces, and grade. Your example is especially interesting because you described it as having a dark brown layer, a beautiful appearance, and extra fine condition. When collectors examine a coin like this, they don't just look at the date. They study Lincoln's cheek, jaw, hair, and coat for wear. They inspect the wheat ears on the reverse, the lettering, the rims, and the fields for scratches, cleaning marks, corrosion, spots, or unnatural surfaces. They also pay attention to the coin's original color and overall eye appeal. And this is where condition can completely change the conversation. PCGS notes that ordinary 1951 Philadelphia cents are relatively common in lower uncirculated grades, but examples become much scarcer as the grade rises, with very high-grade specimens commanding substantial premiums. A certified 1951 example has even reached a $10,350 auction record, showing how strongly exceptional preservation can affect collector demand. So now comes the number that makes this 1951 wheat penny worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 1 cent, the example described here can be valued at approximately $8,900 in today's collector market. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. But remember, an estimated value is not a guarantee that every 1951 penny is worth $8,900. Professional authentication and grading can make a major difference, especially when a coin appears unusually well preserved. And please, do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Do not polish the brown surfaces, scrape away dark areas, or try to make it look newer. Original surfaces matter, and cleaning can permanently damage the appearance and collector value of an otherwise desirable coin. If your example genuinely looks exceptional, professional grading may be worthwhile. So check your old wheat pennies again. Look at the date. Look for the missing mint mark. Examine the surfaces under good lighting and compare the overall condition rather than judging the coin only by its age. Because somewhere in an old collection, inherited jar, forgotten box, or drawer, there could be a 1951 wheat penny that deserves far more attention than someone is giving it. And don't go anywhere, because the next coin in this search takes us even deeper into the world of old US. Coins, where one small detail can completely change what collectors see. Comment, Rare Coins Hunter, if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Coin number 2. Imagine finding a penny that has been sitting quietly in an old collection for decades, looking dark, worn, and almost forgotten, and realizing that its date could be the first thing you should have checked. That is exactly why this next wheat penny deserves your attention. This is the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, showing a brown layer, black dots, and an old circulated appearance. And before you assume that a coin like this is automatically valuable just because it is more than 80 years old, there is something important you need to understand. The date, mint location, condition, surfaces, and collector demand all work together. The year 1945 was a historic moment in American history. World War II was coming to an end, and the United States was producing enormous amounts of coins for everyday commerce. The Philadelphia Mint struck this standard Lincoln cent without a mint mark, and the 1945 Philadelphia issue had a massive mintage of 1,040,515,000 pieces. So why do collectors still care about one today? Because surviving coins don't all look the same. Some were heavily circulated, scratched, stained, or damaged over the decades. Others were protected in collections and survived with much stronger details. Your example, with its brown appearance and black dots, tells a very different story from a bright, untouched, mint-state coin. But collectors still examine these old surfaces carefully to determine exactly what they are looking at. On the front, you'll see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above him is "In God We Trust," while Liberty appears to his left and 1945 appears on the right. Since this is the Philadelphia issue, there is no mint mark below the date. That absence is intentional. It identifies Philadelphia production rather than a mint error. Flip the coin over and you get the classic wheat reverse. Two wheat ears frame the design, with 1 cent in the center, United States of America around it, and E pluribus unum across the top. This wheat design is one of the reasons these old Lincoln cents remain so recognizable among American coin collectors. And there is an interesting historical detail hiding in the metal. The 1945 cent belongs to the wartime period when the United States was making adjustments to cent production because of the demands of World War II. The coin weighs 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, has a plain edge, and is listed by PCGS with a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. When collectors inspect one of these coins, they start with the date and mint mark, then move across Lincoln's portrait. They check the cheek, jaw, hair, lettering, rims, and fields. On the reverse, they study the wheat ears and lettering for wear. Then, they look closely for scratches, corrosion, spots, harsh cleaning, or unnatural surfaces. And condition can make a dramatic difference. PCGS estimates that although many 1,945 Philadelphia cents survive overall, far fewer survive in very high grades. Its survival estimate drops substantially as the grade rises, which is one reason exceptional examples can attract much stronger collector attention. There is also real auction evidence showing just how much condition can change the picture. A certified 1,945 Philadelphia Lincoln cent in MS67+ red has recorded an auction result of $20,400. That was an exceptional mint state specimen, not an ordinary circulated brown penny, and that distinction is extremely important when evaluating your own coin. Now comes the number that makes this 1945 wheat penny worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 1 cent, an example matching the description provided here can be valued at approximately $9,700 in today's collector market. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. But remember, that figure is an estimated collector market value for the specific example described here, not a guarantee for every 1,945 penny. Professional authentication and grading can be especially worthwhile when a coin appears unusually desirable. And whatever you do, do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Those brown surfaces and even the darker areas are part of the coin's current condition. Scrubbing, polishing, dipping, or scraping can leave permanent marks and destroy original surfaces. Original surfaces matter, especially when collectors are deciding whether a coin has been preserved naturally. So take out those old wheat pennies. Check the dates. Look underneath the date for the mint mark or the absence of one. Use good lighting, avoid touching the surfaces unnecessarily, and compare the details before making any assumptions about value. Because many people unknowingly spend old wheat cents without realizing that collectors are still searching for attractive surviving examples. And when a coin has spent decades in circulation, every remaining detail becomes part of its story. This 1945 penny may look like an ordinary old brown cent, but that's exactly why you should never judge an old coin before you check it carefully. And stay with me, because there is still another coin ahead in this search, and the next one could give you another reason to dig through that old coin jar before you spend anything. Comment, Rare Coins Hunter, if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Coin number 3. Here's a date that can fool you simply because it doesn't look old enough at first glance. A 1956 wheat penny can look like an ordinary brown cent, especially after decades of circulation. But once you notice the little D beneath the date, you know exactly where this coin was made. And that small letter is an important part of its story. This is the 1956 with D. Lincoln wheat penny, described here with brown surfaces and an almost fine, circulated condition. It was struck at the Denver Mint, and the D mint mark identifies Denver production. The 1956 with D is a standard issue Lincoln cent, not an automatic error coin or rare variety. In fact, Denver produced an enormous 1,098,201,000 examples that year. But here's where collectors start looking more carefully. 1956 was part of a changing America. The country was deep into the prosperous post-war era, with expanding suburbs, growing consumer spending, new highways, and a rapidly changing American lifestyle. Those pennies were made for everyday transactions, buying something small at a store, paying for a newspaper, or simply sitting in someone's pocket. And somehow, more than 7 decades later, this little bronze cent can still end up in a collector's hands. On the obverse, you'll recognize Victor David Brenner's famous right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Around Lincoln are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1956, followed by the D mint mark. That D is not an error or an extra letter. It tells collectors the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Flip it over, and the classic wheat reverse appears. 2 wheat ears frame the central inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum runs across the top. This was the famous wheat reverse, used on Lincoln cents from 1909 through 1958. And the physical details are worth knowing. This penny is made from the traditional bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighs 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, has a plain edge, and is a round 1 cent coin. Now, with more than 1 billion produced, the 1956D is certainly not rare simply because of its age. That's an important distinction. Collectors continue searching for examples like this, but the real difference comes from preservation. And this is where your description of a brown layer and almost fine condition becomes important. When a collector examines a circulated 1956 with D, the first things to inspect are the date and mint mark, followed by Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, coat, and the surrounding fields. On the reverse, collectors study the wheat stalks and lettering to see how much detail remains. They also look for scratches, corrosion, stains, rim damage, and signs of cleaning. Those brown surfaces matter too. Copper coins naturally change color as they age, and collectors distinguish between brown, red-brown, and red examples. A coin with exceptional original mint color and very high-grade preservation can attract dramatically more attention than an ordinary circulated specimen. In fact, PCGS reports that the 1956 with D becomes much more difficult to find in the highest grades, with exceptional examples becoming scarce. A certified MS67 Plus red example has recorded an auction result of $18,000, demonstrating how strongly condition can affect a common date coin. But don't confuse that auction record with the coin you're holding. That record was for an exceptionally preserved, professionally graded specimen, not an almost fine, brown circulated penny. That's exactly why professional grading and honest condition assessment matter. Now comes the number that makes this 1956 with D wheat penny worth taking a closer look at. From an original face value of only 1 cent, the example described here can be valued at approximately $6,800 in today's collector market. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. And remember, that stated figure is the supplied market estimate for the specific example described here. It does not mean every 1,956 with D wheat penny is worth thousands of dollars. Most ordinary circulated examples trade for far less, while exceptional certified coins can bring substantially higher prices. So if you find one, do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Don't polish the brown layer. Don't scrape away dark spots. Don't use chemicals to make the copper look brighter. Original surfaces matter, and improper cleaning can permanently reduce collector appeal. If the coin appears unusually well preserved, or you believe its condition may be stronger than it looks, professional grading may be worthwhile. A certified grade gives collectors a standardized assessment and can make a major difference when serious money is involved. So tonight, go through those old wheat pennies again. Check the date. Look for that little D. Turn the coin over. Study the wheat stalks. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait and the surfaces around it. Because sometimes, the coin that looks like nothing more than an old brown penny is exactly the one that makes you stop and look twice. And we're not finished yet. Keep watching, because the next wheat penny has another date and another story, and you definitely don't want to overlook it. Comment, Rare Coins Hunter, if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Coin number 4. Sometimes the most interesting coins are not the ones with a flashy mint mark or an obvious mistake. Sometimes it's the quiet little penny with nothing underneath the date at all. And that brings us to a 1940 wheat penny that has survived more than 8 decades of American history. This is the 1940 Lincoln wheat penny struck without a mint mark at the Philadelphia Mint, with the dark brown surfaces and circulated condition you described. And before you judge it by its worn appearance, remember this: a coin can look ordinary on the outside, while still attracting serious attention when collectors examine its date, originality, surfaces, and overall preservation. 1940 was an important moment in America. World War II was approaching, Europe was already at war, and the United States was preparing for a dramatically changing decade. Millions of Americans were using pennies every day, and this coin was produced as a standard circulation cent, not as a special collector issue. Philadelphia struck 586,810,000 regular 1940 Lincoln cents. So this is not a coin that became rare simply because it was made in 1940. The real story is what happened to these coins after they left the mint. Think about that for a second. Hundreds of millions entered circulation, passed through countless hands, and disappeared into drawers, jars, cash registers, collections, and old boxes. More than 80 years later, collectors are still searching through those survivors. On the obverse is Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Above Lincoln is "In God We Trust." To the left is liberty, and to the right is the date 1940. Beneath the date, there is no mint mark. That absence tells you this cent was produced at Philadelphia. Turn it over, and you get the classic wheat reverse. 2 wheat ears frame the design with 1 cent in the center, United States of America around it, and E pluribus unum above. This is the iconic wheat reverse that makes these Lincoln cents instantly recognizable. The physical specifications are just as interesting. This bronze cent contains 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighs 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters across, and has a plain edge. Now look at the coin you have described. Dark brown, circulated, and old-looking. That condition is important. Collectors don't simply ask, "How old is it?" They ask, "How much original detail and surface quality survived?" They inspect Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, coat, the lettering, the date, and the rims. Then they flip the coin and examine the wheat stalks, lettering, central details, and fields. They look for scratches, corrosion, environmental damage, cleaning, rim problems, and anything that could affect the coin's originality. And copper color matters too. A naturally brown wheat penny is classified differently from a red-brown or red example. The highest grade red examples can bring dramatically different prices than ordinary circulated brown cents. PCGS lists the 1,940 Philadelphia cent in brown, and red categories, and its survival estimates show that the number of surviving examples becomes much smaller as the grade rises. For the brown category, PCGS estimates roughly 58 million survivors across all grades, but only around 12,000 at 60 or better, and about 6,000 at 65 or better. And there is real auction activity behind this date. PCGS records an auction result of $805 for a professionally graded MS62 brown 1,940 Philadelphia cent, while an exceptional MS68 red example reached $14,950. Those results show exactly why condition can completely change the collector conversation. Now comes the number that makes this 1940 wheat penny worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 1 cent, the example described here can be valued at approximately $18,900 in today's collector market. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. But there is an important distinction. That $18,900 figure is the market value you provided for this specific described example, not a guaranteed value for every 1,940 Philadelphia wheat penny. Actual selling prices depend heavily on authentication, grade, color, surfaces, and buyer demand. So if you think you've found one, do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Don't polish the dark brown surface. Don't scrape away discoloration. Don't dip it in chemicals trying to make the copper brighter. Original surfaces matter, and cleaning can leave permanent hairlines or other damage that collectors can recognize immediately. If your coin appears unusually well preserved or potentially valuable, professional grading may be worthwhile. A reputable grading service can authenticate the coin, evaluate its condition, and provide a standardized grade that collectors can understand. And this is exactly why you should go back through those old wheat pennies one more time. Check every date. Look underneath the date for the mint mark, or notice when there isn't one. Examine the surfaces carefully and resist the temptation to improve the coin yourself. Because sometimes the most overlooked penny is the one that makes you stop and ask, how did I almost spend this? And we've reached another important point in our search, but don't stop now. There is still more treasure hiding in old American coinage, and the next discovery could be sitting somewhere you least expect it. Comment, Rare Coins Hunter, if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are. Coin number 5. There's something about a 1939 wheat penny that makes you wonder where it has been. This little copper cent was already in American hands before World War II was over, before most modern technology existed, and before generations of collectors ever had the chance to search for it. And if you find one today with no mint mark, don't put it back into circulation until you've looked at it carefully. This is the 1939 Lincoln wheat penny, struck at the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark. And the example we're looking at has the black and brown dots and fine condition you described. 1939 was a fascinating year in American history. The United States was still recovering from the Great Depression, while Europe was moving toward the outbreak of World War II. Americans were using pennies every day for ordinary purchases, and this coin was produced as a standard circulation cent. Philadelphia struck $316 million 466,000 regular 1,939 Lincoln cents. That means the date alone does not make every 1,939 penny rare. And that's an important point for anyone searching old coins. Collectors look beyond the year. They study the mint mark, condition, color, surfaces, originality, and the amount of detail that survived after decades of circulation. Look closely at the front. You have Victor David Brenner's famous right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Above his head is "In God We Trust." To the left is liberty, and on the right is the date 1939. Because this example has no mint mark, it identifies the Philadelphia issue. Now turn it over. The reverse carries the classic wheat design that made these cents so recognizable. 2 wheat ears frame the coin with 1 cent in the center, United States of America around it, and E pluribus unum above. This was the famous wheat reverse used on Lincoln cents before the design changed in 1959. And physically, this is a traditional bronze Lincoln cent. It contains 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighs 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters across, and has a plain edge. But now, let's talk about what really matters for the coin you've described. You said this 1,939 penny has black and brown dots and fine condition. Those surfaces deserve careful attention. Collectors will first check whether the date is clearly readable and whether the coin has the expected Philadelphia characteristics. Then they examine Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, and coat for wear. They look at the rims and fields for scratches or damage, and on the reverse, they inspect the wheat ears and lettering for remaining detail. The black and brown areas are also important because copper changes appearance over time. Natural toning can be part of an original coin's history, but dark spots can also represent environmental damage or corrosion. A collector needs to determine exactly what those surfaces are before assigning a serious value. And condition can completely change the market. PCGS estimates roughly 32 million surviving 1,939 Philadelphia cents across all grades, with far fewer surviving in the higher grades. For examples graded 65 or better, its survival estimate is around 12,000. There is also real auction evidence showing just how dramatically preservation can affect this date. A 1,939 Philadelphia cent, graded MS68+ red, brought $36,000 at Heritage Auctions in January 2025. That's an extraordinary, professionally graded example, not an ordinary circulated penny, and that distinction is extremely important. So now comes the number that makes this 1939 wheat penny worth a much closer look. From an original face value of only 1 cent, the example described here can be valued at approximately $19,500 in today's collector market. Collectors look closely at preservation, surviving examples, historical significance, and demand. If you have one, keep it untouched and avoid cleaning or damaging the coin. But remember that $19,500 figure is the market value you provided for this specific example. It is not a guarantee that every 1,939 Philadelphia wheat penny is worth that amount. Actual prices depend heavily on authentication, grade, surfaces, color, originality, and collector demand. So if you discover a 1,939 wheat penny like this, do not spend this coin. Never clean it. Don't scrub away the brown color. Don't scrape the black dots. Don't polish the copper until it shines. Original surfaces matter, and improper cleaning can permanently damage a coin and make it much less attractive to serious collectors. If the coin looks unusually well preserved or you believe it could be valuable, professional grading may be worthwhile. A professional evaluation can determine whether the coin's condition and originality justify further attention. And this is why you should check those old wheat pennies one more time. Look at the date. Look for the missing mint mark. Examine both sides under good lighting. Pay attention to the details, and most importantly, don't assume an old, dark-looking penny is worthless just because it has spent decades in circulation. Collectors continue searching for surviving examples, and attractive original coins become harder to find as time goes by. You've made it through another incredible wheat penny, but remember, the real lesson is simple. Check before you spend. And if you enjoyed discovering these hidden stories behind America's old coins, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hidden Coin Millions. Your support means so much to me, and it helps us keep searching for the rare coins that could be hiding in ordinary collections. So before you leave, check your old pennies one more time. You never know what treasure might be waiting for you. Subscribe and stay with us, because your next old coin could be the one you've been looking for. Comment, Rare Coins Hunter, if you're still watching. I want to know who the real treasure hunters are.